Experts warn that such events are becoming more frequent due to climate change, especially in the southern Europe. Palermo Mayor Robert Lalacalla called the government assistants say this is no longer a seasonal storm. This is a climate emergency. We need to urgent investment in infrastructure and prevention. No casualties have been confirmed, but dozens of people have been received medical attention and injured in the shock. The Italian government has promised to assess the damage and provide funds to clean up in the coming days. Sicily is beginning in lightly clean up. The storm is stark reminder of increasing unpredictability of nature in the face of global warming. In Messina, landslides blocked major highway, isolated several mountains villages. Farmers in Surrey reported several damaged crops with the olive groves and a vineyard underwater. One of the local farmers, Antonio Bellini, said, "We have lost half of our harvest. We haven't seen rain like this in 40 years." Temporary shelters were set up in community center and church for families who were forced to leave their homes. Volunteers are working around the clock to distribute food, blankets of our necessities. In dramatic turn of events, Sicily finds itself if those in unprecedented storm is nature unleashed any fury upon the picturesque Italian island. Where burst of the exclusive coverage and mythological spectacle deletion the impact of communities, infrastructure and the environment. As the storm approached Sicily, among the clouds gathering healing the tempest to unparalleled proportions. Coastal area forced to onslaught the fierce winds and torrential rains, leading the widespread flooding in challenging conditions to both residents to emergency service. Our on-the-ground reported paint a vivid picture to havoc wreaked by the storm. The city of Palermo was transformed into rivers and water levels served submerged cars and tested to resilience to fluidness. The historic architecture stood the test time to the faces of relentless onslaught the wind of rain. Throughout the island communities are grappling with the power outage, and the storm force causes significant damage to electrical infrastructure. Emergency shelters have been opened to provide refuge to those displaced by the storm. Its depths disappeared under murky water. Rural Sicily was not spared entire. The contrast of the tempest of olive groves and vineyard were ravaged. The coasters of Sicily, rich agricultural heritage, which helpfully to their fields were submerged, their livelihoods momentarily wiped out the storm war. The damage of the agriculture sector is cornerstone of the Sicily economy is yet to be fully equipped, but early estimates suggest a significant impact. The storm has also rekindled discussions about the climate change and the increasingly visible impact. Scientists point to rising temperature in the Mediterranean in contrast of more frequent and intense weather patterns. This storm in Sicily is not an isolated incident but horrible to changing climate in respect not geographical barriers. Amidst the chaos have been hearing displays of resilience and solidarity. Communities have together to support provided evacuation support to provide shelters to those displaced. Sicily Civil Protection Chief Fabio Crusoe warning of the increasingly unstable Mediterranean climate economy, warning from climatologists who said that the sea surface temperature now about 27 Celsius are contributed to the formation of more tropical cyclones now at the Mediterranean. Local media including Roberto Lagola of Palermo and Etnico Tragico of Catania have requested emergency funds of support from the national government. Cleanup efforts are ongoing with more than 1,400 civil protection volunteers and firefighters involved in the cleanup debris and draining flooded areas. Environmental groups such as Ligibird and Colson Italy in the speed up infrastructure urged, especially in the southern cities prone on flooding. Experts from the University of the Palermo know that 16% of region drainage system and outdated or inundated from the today extreme weather conditions. As Italy begin in a powerful recovery, the message is clear. Climate disasters are no longer a distant possibility, they are not happening now with the devastating consequences. The human toll of storm is still being issued. At least 3 deaths have been confirmed so far, including the elderly man who drowned in flooding basement in Messina and young delivery driver who was swept away by flood waters in Catania. Dozens of people have been injured, many of them due to falling debris and traffic incidents on the road, Middleside, Pillar or rain. Sicilian Governor Renata Citrelli visited the flooded areas on Tuesday, calling that the match helicopters and promised long-term support. We will not abandon our people. The recovery will be swift and complete, we promised during the press conference. Local volunteers are in the affected areas, diverted flood and helping to clear debris. Social media is now filled not only image and destructive but also of solidarity. Neighbors stretch offering shoulders and young groups organized donated drivers. School in several provinces remain closed to damage assessment continue. Psychologists have been sent to provide assistance to children and families affected by trauma, especially in the hardest hit community of Gela and Lizita. Culture representative warned that the addition of psychological storm urged me to adapt to climate change were needed to prevent Sicily identified a tourist economy. This is a symbol act to unity in the consulate across the Sicily. Royal Bail some territory as noon Tuesday, a moment of silence of fixing a sign strange to serious. Sicily and no stranger to hardship. From the earthquake to volcanic eruption they have endured a lot, but this storm, many say, was different, not just a natural disaster but climate warning through the wind and the water. The Italian capital Rome has been stunned after a sudden and violent hailstorm swept through the city, pelting streets, monuments, and neighborhoods with the eyes of the sky of Ghost Ball. The storm struck with a little warning, turning Simon strikes into a dramatic clash of thunder and lightning before unleashing torrents. The rain mixed with hail. When the minutes rolled, turned wild, resembling winter snow rather than a September evening. I felt like the sky was exploding, said Marco Bianchi, a taxi driver whose car window was shattering. I lived here all life and never seen Rome like this. Dozens of people were threatened to injure, many from flying glass and fallen debris. Hospital reported cases to shock and debris and brushes, where several children were taken with a head injury caused by the hailstorm. Emergency service received across the city responded to collapsing shops, canopies, damaged vehicles and flooded underpasses. Tourists were cut off guard in a historic era. Visitors ran to shelter inside the Colosseum and St. Peter Basilica in hailstorm battered courtyard and pieces. Social media quickly filmed with the several images of the Trevi fountain surrounded by the sky, with the local describe it into steam from another world. Transport was now into disarray. Rome's metro facing delay after water seeped into tunnels, with the traffic jams scattered into kilometers and the driver abandoned damaged car. Agriculture outside the city was also hit. The vineyard in Lazio suffered severe damage and the entire cruise destroyed just a week before harvest, raising fears of million losers to the local farmers. Meteorologists explained the storm was fueling the unusually warm Mediterranean air classes the colder north front, creating the perfect conditions to the cave formations. Experts warning that climate change is making such extreme events more frequent even in the region accustomed to them. The Italian island of Sicily is battling catastrophic flooded under unprecedented rain turned entire town into disaster zone. Meteorologists have described the storm as a once-of-the-century event and official warning the full extent of the damage is not yet known. The streets of Palermo turned into rivers, cars were swept away by a building and underground, garages were flooded in a matter of minutes. In Catania, residents were forced in a wet chase deep through the metro in the city center, and hospital reported serious damage to emergency rooms. Messina, Sorrento, and rural mountain community were cut off by landslides. In less than a day, more than 215 millimeters of rain fell, almost as much in 4 months. Italy's Civil Protection Agency issued a red alert, urged residents to stay indoors. Helicopters and rescue boats worked around the clock to evacuate families trapped on the upper floor. At least 10 people were killed and more than injured and missing. I thought that it was end, said Salvador Vital, a 64-year-old farmer who was the livestock while floods inundated his field.
Risponde l'esercizio telefonica di 34.
Rome came to a sudden halt after a severe hailstorm swept through the city, flooding the streets, paralyzing traffic, and shocking residents with the scale of the event. In the matter of minutes, large hailstones covered squares and boulevards, transformed parts of the Italian capital into winter scenes in the middle of autumn. Meteorologists explained that the storm was caused by the collisions of the most Mediterranean air with the approaching cold front, which caused severe thunderstorms capable of producing hailstones up to 4 centimeters in diameter. The storm in both the city center of the surrounding suburbs damaged cars, broke windows, and blocked drainage systems. Public transport was severely disrupted. Buses were stuck in flooding underpasses, and trams stopped because the tracks were covered in ice. Passengers described it chaotic scenes. It was like driving balls. They had to stop and wait because it was impossible to see the road, said Marco, a local taxi driver. Emergency service responded to hundreds of calls. A rescue driver stuck in rising waters to help in precedent to the injured after slipping in the sidewalks, made slippery by hail. Rome, Italy. A powerful and sudden hailstorm brought the Italian capital to the standstill, transforming the historic streets into frozen torrential and living residents in shock. Within minutes, dark clouds gathered over the eternal city, unleashed the violent downpour of ice that covered cars, monuments, and pigeons under the thick layer of white. Meteorologists describe the event of extreme collective cell, an unusual atmospheric clash between warm Mediterranean humidity and a cold Arctic front. Hailstones, some exceeded 3 centimeters in diameter, pounded rooftops and vehicles. Standing off alarm across the city, wind gusts reached nearly 100 km/h, intensified the destruction, uprooted trees and scattered debris along the Tiber River. Emergency service received over 120 calls. In 2 hours, dozens of vehicles were abandoned the submerged streets, and firefighters worked tirelessly to free people trapped in the underpass. Several metro lines and bus roads were suspended due to flooding and power outage. It looked like a scene from the disaster movie, said resident Chiara Moretti. In a few minutes, day turned into night, and the streets became a river in the ice. Severe storms have struck Italy, Emilia-Romagna region, alleged torrential rain, hail and powerful winds that caused flash flood and power outage and widespread disruption. The violent weather in the late Monday drenched cities including Bologna, Madeira, Ravenna and Forlì, and leaving several communities underwater within an hour. Residents described scenes of chaos, and the streets turned into rivers and vehicles were swept away. The water rose so quickly that we barely had time to measure our car, said Luca Bianchi, a shop owner in central Bologna. It was like a city was drowned. Firefighters carried out more than 800 emergency inverters. Overnight, rescue standard motorists and pumped water from flooded homes. In Ravenna, authorities ordered evacuation after local rivers overflowed. Wide section of the A14 motorway were temporarily closed due to landslides and debris. Meteorologists say the storm were triggered, and the sharp drop in air pressure as warm, humid air from the Adriatic collided with a cold front descended from the northern Europe, a risk from intense thunderstorm. Violent storm struck Rome late Monday, transforming the Italy capital into a scene of chaos rarely widespread in the recent years. When the windy sky turned pitch black and the torrential rain, a gale force wind swept across the city, uprooted trees, flooded major roads, and caused widespread blackout. According to the Italian Civil Protection Department, the storm formed over the Tyrrhenian Sea before slamming into the Lazio with unprecedented intensity. It was like a midday, said local resident Francesca Bianchi, described how lightning illuminated the street's landmark from the Coliseum to St. Paletta Bellizia, and thunder echoed across the hills. Public transport was heavily disrupted. Metro Lane A was partially closed due to flooded tunnels, while firefighters responded to more than 300 emergency calls for trapped motorists and fallen debris. Rome history, where the also turned into Russian river submerged cars on the window. A powerful hailstorm swept across Rome late Wednesday afternoon, turning the city into a frozen battlefield as a hailstorm, large of a golf ball, pounded streets, cars and rooftops. The storm struck without warning, sending residents and tourists scrambling to cover with the cafe shops and under a warning. Central districts including Trastevere, Piazza Venezia and Termini were hardest hit. Flooded streets, trapped vehicles, and emergency service responded to over 500 calls to stranded motorists, fallen trees and damaged buildings. It was like the city was under siege, said Luca Romano, a resident in Trastevere. He smashed car window and the water rose too quickly to escape. The Well de Foucault Italia Fire and Rescue Service worked throughout the night, clearing debris and rescue people from the floodwaters. Several metro stations, including Barberini, were temporarily closed. A water entire tunnels, authority confirmed minor injury to residents by hail and slippery ice pavement. Meteorologists explained the storm was caused by the collision of hot, humid Mediterranean air with a cold front from the north, powering the supercell system capable to releasing enormous energy in a short time. These storms are increasingly violent and unpredictable. Agriculture is surrounding laser suffered heavily. Vineyard, olive groves and citrus orange were devastated within minutes, leading the preliminary estimates of millions of euros in losses. Authorities report that the wind uprooted trees, damaged roofs and caused power outage in some areas and Veneto region. The city transport network was paralyzed, but buses were suspended and several bridges were temporarily closed due to high water levels. Meteorologists said the storm was fueled the powerful low-pressure system that swept across southern Europe during the most unstable air from the Mediterranean Sea. As a result, more than 120 millimeters of rainfall in few hours, half of Venice's normal monthly rainfall. Environmental groups have again warned that climate change is exacerbating extreme weather events across Italy. Venice is not a far front to the climate crisis, said meteorologist Chiara Moretti. Without district action, this flooding will only get worse. As the storm subsides, the clean begin that the forces and not yet devastation flood severe as a painful reminder of Venice's fragile struggle with the sea.
Mai visto una roba del genere, guarda!
On Tuesday afternoon, Rome experienced a shocking weather change. Heavy hail fell on the city, leaving an instant cover in ice and chaos. The warm and humid day quickly turned into sin and destruction as dark cloud gathered over the capital without warning, released hailstones the size of walnuts with pelted cars, roofs, and pristines. Within the minutes, the city's cobbled streets turned into ice rivers, and the ambulances series broke through the narrow valley in Trastevere and Tuscany. Locals took refuge in cafes, shops, and metro station while the storm raged for nearly an hour. It was terrible, said Chiara Moretti, a taxi driver who was cut off in the storm. The hail was so heavy and I could see road. I thought the white ship would break. The hail caused significant damage to it. White ship damaged cars and flooding low-lying area. In some parts of Via Appia, Nola, parked cars were flooded up to their doors, and a section of Rome metro lines A and B were temporarily closed due to water ingress. Firefighters received more than 500 emergency calls, including the rescue of people from the stuck cars and flooded basements. Rome has been struck by an unprecedented and violent hailstorm that transformed the eternal city into surreal winter scene, shocking residents and disrupted daily life. Within the minutes, large hailstorms, some the size of walnuts, battered the capital, damaged cars, broke windows, and blanket Athens streets in white. The storm hit late in the afternoon, following days in unusual warm weather. Meteorologists from Italy's Civil Protection Department subscribed the event as sudden and extreme, with intense rainfall and temperature drop slopes of nearly 10 Celsius under an hour. It was one of the most intense connective storms we've seen over Rome in a year, said meteorologist Elisa Romano. Social media quickly filled with dramatic footage showing torrents and ice and water cascading down the city capable alley, with the Trastevere and Prati districts drains overloaded, turning roads into river in slash. It was terrified, said local resident Marco De Luca, and was hit at the heart but felt like a window were going to explode.
Mai visto una roba del genere, guarda.
The Mediterranean has become a beginning ground the super-changing storm, said Dr. Elisa Conte, a climate researcher at La Sapienza University. Social media filmed the dramatic video showing lightning illumination the Coliseum, have covered the Spanish Steps, and a water cascading down ancient starways. Its some neighborhoods power outage left hundreds of homes in the darkness for hours. Authorities have urged caution a cleanup continuing. Rome major paralyzed emergency crew for the rapid response by afternoon the city again drainage system remained the major vulnerability. We must adapt. This is a new climate reality, she said. For many Romans, the storm served as a powerful reminder for even the eternal city is not immune the ground fury the extreme weather. As Dame broke, sunlight related the city's story scarred the still standing resilience as ever. Palermo, the vibrant capital of the city, awaked the scene of devastation after one of the most violent storms in the recent memory battered the city overnight. Within a few short hours, torrential downpour and hurricane-force winds transformed the sun-drenched Mediterranean hub into the landscape of chaos and destruction. According to Italy's Civil Protection Department, the storm unleashed more than 115 millimeters of rain, equivalent of 2 months of precipitation, in less than 3 hours. The city and the drainage system dating back in the 19th century was quickly overwhelmed. Cars flooded through the flooded streets, traffic lights flickered out the entire neighborhood, including Partana, Oreta, and Mandela, were cut off by rising water. Local authorities described the event as one in the century deluge. Major Roberto Lagale urged residents to remain indoors and declared to municipality energy. This is not a simple storm, he told reporters. It is a climate disaster that has hit Palermo. It is unprecedented force. Videos circulated online captured the shocking moment when the lightning illuminated the city skyline. Chaos and disbelief swept through the Italian capital as a ferocious hailstorm tore across Rome, blanking the streets in the ice, flooding tunnels and leaving residents trapped in their cars and homes. The storm, which started suddenly in the late afternoon, turned into eternal city, into the witness described it as a frozen battlefield. Meteorologists said the event was triggered by a clash between the warm Mediterranean air and rapidly advanced Arctic front, a combination that prodded towering thunderstorm and the severe hail. Within moments, hailstorm the size of large coins plumped the city straight through windows and dented vehicles across entire neighborhood. I've lived in Rome, and whole life I never seen anything like it, said 34-year-old taxi driver Marco De Santis. The storm unleashed torrents in the city water through the several districts, including Trastevere, San Giovanni, and Ossa, where the drainage system was overwhelmed. Firefighters reported to more than 1,500 emergency calls, rescuing stranded motorists and pumped water from metro station and underground garage. Power cuts hit multiple areas, while traffic across A19 ruined ground to half an hour. Photos and videos shared online showed rivers of ice flowing through the incident, cobblestone streets and half building knee-deep around the famous landmark. The Trevi Foundation overflowed with a ruin of water, while parts of Via del Corso resembled glacier.
Questo è un grosso problema molto grosso. Porta via il negozio qua. Adesso porta via macchine e tutto.
Italy is facing a major crisis after catastrophic floods swept through the parts of the country, with Sicily and Tuscany bearing the brunt of devastation. Torrential rain over the past week was causing rivers to overflow, triggering landslides, and left entire communities underwater. The flood, described as some of the worst in recent memory, have claimed lives, displaced thousands, and caused widespread damage to infrastructure and homes. In Sicily, the relentless rainstorm had left widespread flooding across urban and rural area alike. In the island capital Palermo, streets have turned into rivers, with the cars submerged and many residents forced to evacuate. Catania, another major city, has also been severely affected, with widespread damage reported in a historic center. The floods have overwhelmed the drainage system, leaving emergency services struggling to keep with the demand to rescue operations. Many people have been trapped in their homes, and helicopters have been destroyed to relieve residents from isolated areas.